You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this happy Thanksgiving episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And today I have my partner in crime, if you will, and my partner on Bloody Angola, the podcast, in the studio with me, Jim.
How are you, Woody Overton? Excited to be on Real Life Real Crimes feed.
Love it, right? You produce it every time anyway. But y'all, so it's Jim Chapman, right? And the owner of Vision Podcast Studios and everything. As y'all know, he's our producer for Real Life Real Crime. And we want to do a little something different this week because we know everybody's traveling and doing all that stuff. But we have another podcast called Bloody
Angola, a podcast 142 years in the making.
The complete story of America's bloodiest prison. And y'all will hear, if you listen to Bloody Angola, you'll hear that's how we open each episode. So we had an idea this week on Bloody Angola. We're going to drop an older Real Life Real Crime episode. And on Real Life Real Crime, we're going to drop one of our favorite Bloody Angola episodes to get to introduce both markets, both sections of our listeners to each show. And we hope you go in and you enjoy it. And it's just Thanksgiving time, right?
That's right. And what could be better, Woody, than basting that turkey or
frying that turkey,
or
got to inject it too.
Yeah, smoking that hog, whatever you're doing on Thanksgiving, even if you're eating pizza on Thanksgiving.
Even if you're driving to grandma's house, you go over the hills you go, right?
That's right. That's right. It couldn't be anything better than listening to true crime podcasting at its best. And so we're kind of flip-flopping each other's shows.
Yeah. But so this show, y'all, we're going to release Bloody Angola. It will release the first episode of the Brent Miller series. And y'all, this one's tough, but it's all true, historically correct. And for us to do the story about Brent Miller, who's someone I've heard about since I was a little boy. My mama has a personal connection. She was his teacher, and the firing range now at Angola is named for him and everything else. But I heard about him my whole life. But for us to get to do the Bloody Angola series, if you will, on Brent Miller, for me, it was priceless.
Yeah, me too. And like Woody said, very hard episode to listen to at times, but in one of my favorites ever that we've recorded to date.
I think it's one of the most important, certainly. And the one thing you get on Bloody Angola, everything is different. You got a lot of the hard stories like this, but then some of the first ones we opened up with, like the Walls and the Hill Street Gang, are more historical. but it's all correct. And a lot of stuff I didn't even know, right? Yeah. And I worked in Angola, right? Yeah. But we want y'all to hear this story and to hear Bloody Angola podcast, because if you like real life, real crime, you're going to love Bloody Angola.
100%.
And so Brent Miller, I'm not going to give you all the details on it. We just want y'all to listen to it. And for us, it was about remembering Brent Miller.
That's right.
And not the pieces of shit that did what they did that became famous later on.
Agreed.
Right. And I would tell you this, I'll give it a little tease. When you listen to this, you're going to love it on Real Life Real Crime. When you hear that last episode, wait till you hear what happened the day we dropped the first episode. Well, I can't even tell you what happened. You just go listen to it. Somebody became infamous or very famous, if you will. Actually, something happened to the last one of those guys that day that we dropped it. I don't think that's a coincidence.
I don't either. There are no coincidences, according to Woody Overton.
That's true, especially not in a criminal case.
Yeah.
Without further ado, other than we want to say happy Thanksgiving,
yes,
to you and everyone you love, and we're so thankful for y'all, and I'm so thankful for all you lifers. So thankful for everything that you've given me and blessed me with. In Bloody Angola, same way. I'm certain a certain percentage of y'all do listen to Bloody Angola. We want to say thank you too.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are two guys here that are blessed way more than we deserve.
Every second of every day.
Every day.
And Patreon and Convicts, of course, you'll get it commercial free and early. And Chase team members, of which are y'all that, for your lifers that haven't listened to Bloody Angola, Chase team members are our subscribers, like Patreon and Convicts and Real Life Real Crime. So you'll get Real Life Real Crime episode we're going to drop for y'all on Bloody Angola. So we're just swapping it out. Thankful, blessed beyond measure. Hope you enjoy it. Love and appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Woody, for having me on Real Life Real Crime to introduce this episode.
Thank you for producing this year four-time award-winning.
Yes.
Right? Just this year. So, but thank you. But thank all y'all. And hey, go subscribe to Bloody Angola. If you like this episode, then you're going to love it. Go subscribe to it. Share it everywhere. These stories that we tell, they're not always hard like this. There's some redemption stories. There's some different stories about the prison that you just, describing things, everything from rules to the layout of the prison to whatever, the history, everything else. So just share it with everybody that you know. If they like Real Life Real Crime, you're going to love Bloody Angola.
Yes.
All right. So that's it. And here comes your Thanksgiving episode of Bloody Angola on Real Life Real Crime.
Brent Miller and the Angola 5, Part 1.
One, baby. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, Lord, burden. Oh, Lord, God, oh, hell no.
This is the story of America's bloodiest prison, told by the people who lived it, both inside and outside its gates. The brutal history as you've never heard it before, from its origin as a slave plantation to its gradual growth as the bloodiest maximum security prison in America. To those outside its gates is known as Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, but to those who have spent time inside its gates, it's known as Bloody Angola.
Raise them up higher, let them drop on down. Oh, raise them up higher, let them drop on down. Well, now, oh, Lord.
Come with us as we take you through the gates and give you a first-hand look at not only the stories of the stabbings, rapes, executions, escapes, and murders you won't find on any TV show or the internet, but also the murders, abductions, attacks, and hostage situations of the staff and their families, otherwise known by the convicts as free people.
Bloody Angola is a comprehensive, no-holds-barred podcast that takes you on a journey through time from its inception as a slave plantation to America's largest maximum security prison, where 80% of its population will die inside the wire.
Get mentally prepared. Sit back and listen as we cover these stories in detail.
In ways that you've never heard before from people that lived it, breathed it, and died with it. Bloody Angola. Warning. Bloody Angola is a podcast covering actual events and is intended for mature audiences.
The subject matter discussed in no way reflects the personal opinions of the host or sponsors of this podcast.
Thank you.
Just want to welcome everybody back to Bloody
Angola,
a podcast 142 years in the making.
the complete story of America's bloodiest prison.
Yes, and I'm Jib Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And we want to welcome you today. We have a story, y'all, that, Woody, how would you describe this?
For me, it's been a lifelong story. I've heard this story since I was a little boy, and it just goes back. It's very powerful. It's very controversial. It's horrible on all sides, but it's a story that needs to be told.
And it's very personal to the Overton family personally.
Right. And, you know, when you say the Overton family, you're correct. My dad's dad haven't been the judge up there, but my mom's dad started out in Angola as the first parole officer ever lived there. And y'all know me, digress, in the last show, and I said my mom was raised on Angola, but I meant they lived there for numerous years until my grandfather got accepted in LSU Law School, and then they moved to St. Francisville. Okay, so but St. Francisville and Angola, basically the same people. Everybody knew everybody, and they ended up all going to school together in the end. So my mama said, "Hey, you got to make sure." She said, "All my friends know that I wasn't raised my whole life on Angola, right? On the beeline, but I knew all those people." She said, "I still know them." And today I was talking to her, and she's telling me, "Oh, but this person married this person." I mean, very small community. I think maybe her high school graduating class had like 28 people or something like that.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. But it's to this day, this story, I mean, it's 40-something plus years afterwards, 48, 50 years afterwards, I guess, almost.
Yeah.
It's still very controversial and very hard to hear. And we're going to get into all that.
It really is. And so, folks, if any time you wanted to borrow a term from real life, real crime, heed that warning.
Yeah.
This will be the episode to do it. It's a very sensitive subject we're discussing today, and a very hard story to hear.
Right. And we warn y'all that these stories are going to get more progressive as they go. And we weren't bullshitting you.
Yeah. We were, it's like that slow tease, and now we're about to slam you.
That's right. Yeah, for real.
For real. So
I tell you this, on this story, my mama, I won't say her age, my mama, after all of these years, still cries every time she talks about it.
Yeah. Wow. So, Woody, I guess go ahead and let's kind of start it off, and I'll interject where I can.
As we told y'all before, a lot of the people, free people who work in Angola are generational, and they have lived there for many, many, many years, many generations in since we dropped the first episode, Jim, and I think I told you this, we've had so much outpouring to us from people who are basically our lifers, not lifers from Real Life Real Crime, but like when I say lifers, I mean generational. They grew up on Angola, and a lot of them still work there, have reached out to me personally, and they're like, oh, my God, you know, the stories, et cetera. But it's when I say generational, I mean they were birthed at Angola.
Yeah.
Their daddy and mama worked at Angola. Their grandparents worked at Angola. Their grandparents worked at Angola. And you grow up on the beeline, and you don't really even know the outside world. You get busted into St. Francisville for school now, but you're going to grow up and be a correctional officer. Most of them, a lot of them. And in this case, we're going to talk to y'all about today. That's exactly what happened. All right, Brent Miller. Okay, Brent Miller was a generational correctional officer. He grew up on the beeline, and as did generations of his people. Now, he had some family in Amite, Louisiana also, but he grew up on the beeline, and my mama, I told y'all, lived there to whatever age, and then she went out and she became a teacher before she became a lawyer. And she taught Brent, and she can't remember if it was 6th or 7th grade, but she taught him in school, and she distinctly remembers them. She said, of course, it's easy to remember the really bad ones. Like she can call the kids names, like the principal's like, you're not even going to get anything out of them. It's just some kids would show up, and these were Angola kids, okay, that she was teaching. So some of them would show up, and they wouldn't even answer a question on the test. They didn't care, right? Yeah. They were going in to be a correctional officer. They didn't give a shit about school. But she said, Brent, she can see it right now in her mind's eye today as a young boy, crew cut, you know, the flat top was the thing back then. She said he was such a sweet boy and a good looking kid and very athletic and just as nice and well raised as a kid could be, you know, like you and I would hope our kids are. That's what she said, you know, very, very respectful, very clean cut, comes from a good, hardworking family, generational correctional officers. And she taught him, but years later, when my grandfather was a lawyer and he had his office right there on the main drag in St. Francisville, Mama said she stopped by to get something out. Now, my mama was in law school at the time. She said she stopped by to get something out of the attic, and Brent Miller was there. And he came up, hey, Miss Sandra, and gave her big hugs and kisses. And he said, you know, you were my favorite teacher. And you know, a lot, evidently, and that's happened at like my aunt's funeral and stuff. Grown-ups now naturally would come up to mom and say, oh, you didn't teach us for long, but you made a big impact on us, right?
Sure.
So Brent Miller comes up, big smile. My mom was crying today. She said, biggest smile, really good-looking young man, you know, he was like 20 and early 20s, right? And she was like, she said, what are you doing here? She said, I got to get something out of that. He said, you let me get that for you, Miss Sandra. You don't need to get that. And so he went up and got it, a piece of furniture, and brought it down and said big smiles, helped her load it up and gave her big hugs. And she said, Woody, I can see it in my mind right now. Yeah. You know?
He made an impression, and obviously a very mannerly kid. He was raised right. And as Woody just mentioned, she remembered him from when she taught him when he was younger. Now he's grown, and Brent Miller was a athletic, large human being, right? Corn-fed country boy,
right. And back then, you know, they didn't have the steroids and the weightlifting and everything like we did now. But I saw a picture. I sent it to you. A picture of him. He was a star athlete in high school, football player, a wide receiver. I mean, and he was a stud. Yeah. But his high school days, everybody loved him. Everybody that knew him, every account I've ever read, everybody I ever met, I talked to about this, that's from there, said he was just the best dude. Right?
Yeah.
So he'd go on to graduate. What does he do? Immediately goes to work in Angola.
Yeah.
As a correctional officer.
Generational. You know, it's and folks think about it like in regular society. A lot of times if your mom and dad were an attorney, you become an attorney. Unless you're Woody Overton.
Except for me. All my brothers and sisters became attorneys. Yeah, I'm the exception.
But a lot of people follow in their family's footsteps in a lot of different fields, and so no different in the Angola world.
Right, and let's talk about that for a second, because I know when I worked in corrections, I wasn't making anything, right?
Yeah.
But for a young man, it seemed like I was making a lot. But you quantify it in today's money, I wasn't. But the generational families that are raised on Angola, you had your housing on the beeline. Your house was always maintained. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Paint by inmates. It was always freshly painted. Your yard was freshly cut. Your house was cleaned every day. Your 3 meals were cooked. You had your own personal butler, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was nice, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that was just the way life was.
It was a perk.
You had your own trustee assigned there. And I asked my mom about this. Were you ever afraid? Because the B line is inside the wire. I mean, it's not far from death row, right? And the prisoners, you got murderers working in your house, and we'll tell some stories about that in the future.
Yeah.
But I asked her, were you ever afraid? She said, no. Hell, we played in the street, and I remember the inmates were always around us.
Yeah, no
crazy,
fear.
right?
Yeah, it really is. But when you're raised in that environment,
you don't know any different.
You don't know any different.
It's crazy.
That's right.
And so Brent goes back. Well, he goes to work in Angola, and he meets. Or actually, he knew her his whole life. Actually, so he was 23, and he just married a girl that he knew his whole life, and then they were in love. They actually got married when she was 16, and which wasn't uncommon back then, right? They prayed together, they worked together, they whatever, and it was kind of an unspoken thing that Brent and she were going to get married.
Yeah. He had known this girl's entire life. The families were probably besties.
Yeah. Well, you talk about small town America, like where I grew up, where everybody knew everybody's business. Imagine how it was on the B line when it's that small.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, that's like you can't get any smaller.
Yeah.
And then your people are working together every day. My grandfather went to work as parole officer. My grandmother went to work as a guard in the women's part, right? So and when your day's off, you're doing everything together. So Brent knew this family. These families knew each other. They worked together. They got married. They were very in love. She was a beautiful girl. He was a really good-looking, clean-cut kid. And they got married.
Yeah, yeah, in love, and on the way to a long life together.
Right.
And this was and everything was gravy.
Right.
Back then.
And so Brent had been working as a correctional officer for a little bit, and he was very well liked by both the staff and the convicts, the inmates, and they liked him. Everybody liked him.
Yeah.
But it was a really hard time, y'all, at Angola.
Yeah, it really was, and we want to kind of hammer down this point to everyone that it was not uncommon for inmates and guards to actually get along. I mean,
you're locked up together.
Woody being a career officer, I'm sure there were people you arrested that you were like, wow, in regular life, I would have actually liked this guy.
Not only that, if you treat them correctly, then you still have a good rapport with them the next time you arrest them. But when I was a correctional officer, hell, there were a lot of cons that were down, especially when I was on the working cell blocks for so long, that I knew their stories. You got to pass 12 hours a night. I mean, you stand there and talk to them, and you know such and such, and da-da-da, you've been in this place, and it helps pass the time. But you never forget that they're a convict, and they're certainly never going to forget that you're a CO.
Right.
But it's much easier to get along.
Yeah.
Even though you're in your respective positions, it's much easier to get along. And Brent Miller had this rapport.
Yeah,
with the inmates.
Not only with the inmates, but with everybody he came across. Right. I mean, your mother, we spoke to her. She still cried over that, and so that I'm trying to paint what we're trying to paint a picture of here is this guy was a special individual, and that everybody he met kind of fell in love with him.
Right.
And just a awesome human being.
As far as a correctional officer goes, though, he was respected by the convicts, which is especially for a young one, is hard to do, right? Yeah. So if you go to search an inmate's box, that's where they keep all their stuff, and I'm talking about in the dormitories, where they keep all their stuff for their bed. If you're a young officer, a lot of times the young officers will get in there and just start throwing shit out of their box, whatever, looking for contraband. Well, the deal is that's their home.
Yeah.
And it's like you coming in and tearing up their shit. And then they know it has to happen, but there's two different ways you could do it. Brent was the kind of guy who would go in and do it respectfully. Hey, you know what? I got to shake you down, stand there and watch and take things out gently and looking without making a total shit show.
Yeah, he's not tossing underwear out of,
right?
Yeah.
And you get that respect. Brent had that respect. From all accounts, he had the respect of the inmates, but didn't mean he was a bitch. They didn't do his job. He did his job. He hammered people when he had to, but only if he had to.
Yeah. Yeah, and that made the inmates respect him. Of course, as Woody and I both said in the past, respect was everything inside of it, the bloodiest prison in America.
Yeah, so tell them what was going on around this time. But of course, we're dealing with Bloody Angola.
Yes, yeah, this is the largest maximum security prison in the country, worst of the worst of there. And there's a term in prison known as bucking up.
Yep.
And bucking up is essentially where a convict will just do that, buck the system. He almost will disrespect the guards. Well, many inmates prior to the incident we're going to tell you about, the guards noticed they were bucking up. Not only the guards, but people, administrators of Angola were noticing the prisoners seem to be bucking up a lot at this time.
That's right. And so let me say this, because I've witnessed this. You can tell. I always say correctional officers don't run the prison. The inmates or the convicts run the prison. And anytime they really want to buck up, they could take it over. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because you're inside, you got no firearms. I'm not talking about the people in towers. I'm talking about if you're working on a dormitory or cell block, whatever. And most people don't have radios or whatever. The inmates run it. But there's days when you could go in. I mean, it's just like a regular day. And then there's days you could go in and you could feel a tension in the air. Like, holy shit, everybody's being a little bit more quiet or, and you're like, holy shit. I mean, I can feel it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, something's about to go down.
Yeah, it's in the air, as you just said, and as guards, one of the things that I learned from Woody was it's not like Shawshank Redemption, y'all. There's no nightsticks in your hands or on your hips, and the reason for that is it can be taken from you
and used on you.
You.
You didn't get to carry freeze plus P. The supervisors could have it or radio. The people don't get that. Don't understand. When you walk through those gates, you locked down for your 12 hours. And I'm going to talk about this real quick. So correctional officers in general, I'm talking about the ones who work the towers, not the ones who work the fields because they work 5 days a week.
Right.
I'm talking about the ones who work inside the prison with the boots on the ground. They work 2 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. All right. So you got every other weekend, 3-day weekend, but you're working 12-hour shifts from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you're on day or night shift.
Right.
So Brent Miller was working the day shift on the main prison, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah. And as all this was going on, these prisoners bucking up, as we just told you, they had some incidents start popping off, I guess would be a good term for that. Things started popping off inside of Angola.
Yeah, and they don't just, it's not just a full out riot all of a second, y'all. It builds up.
Yeah.
It's like a bad wound or something that gets pus on it and it just goes until it explodes, right?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of little things that were going on. Then there were some bigger things. But the concept of the prison, not the concept, what was going on in Angola at the time, y'all, this is 1972. You had the first ever Black Panther movement coming in.
Yes. The only chapter of the Black Panthers that was ever credited as a legitimate Black Panther chapter inside of United States prison. And just to give everyone just a quick history on the Black Panthers, for those that may not be familiar, this was a party, a political party was what it was marketed as, that basically fought against the oppression of black people. And it was formed by two gentlemen. Malcolm X had been assassinated, and essentially these two gentlemen had had enough. And they said, well, let's band together as black people. We're being oppressed. And they started the Black Panther Party. In its existence, the Black Panther Party essentially became 2,000 or so members strong in its height, but it had a very, very strong presence politically. It was noticed by many, many police organizations such as the FBI back in the days.
They were militants.
Yeah.
And they made no bones about it.
No. It was a by any means necessary type of organization. And
now they believe 1,000% in the Constitution, and especially the part about every person being treated equal. But the difference is they said that black people weren't treated equally, and they were going to make sure by hook or crook that black people got the fair shake. And if they had the right to bear arms to do it, then that's what they would do.
That's right. And so it was a little bit different than like Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream and nonviolent marches. It was a little bit different than that. And the FBI took notice and at their height, the FBI kind of made it a goal that, hey, we're going to shut down the Black Panther Party. But there was a point in time around 1966, 67, all the way through the early 70s where they were extremely strong organization of black people that they did some good things for their race. And we'll touch on those as well. But I just wanted you to get a good history on who they were, because it plays a key part in this story.
A huge part of this story for over 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
But that's not all the story's limited to, right? So we'll go back to it. So again, like Jim said, the Black Panthers had the only organized Black Panthers in any prison in the United States of America. But y'all also have to remember the times the conditions were very harsh. This is when Angola was specifically known as Bloody Angola. People were getting stabbed every day. People were getting murdered every day.
Yeah. The late 60s, early 70s, were notorious at Angola for, it's what gave Bloody Angola and its name.
Right.
As the bloodiest prison in America.
And Brent was living there. He was working there, right? As were his family members, et cetera. But the rapes, the murders, and I was told this story when I was there. They had a huge shortage of correctional officers, and they always have and probably always will. But like at the night shift, the dormitories, they were just like, fuck it. The guards be going on out. So you have one guard for 4 dormitories back then at night. You're supposed to have 2 at least. But they would say they'd be like, fuck it, I'm short. They would go on the outside and lock the door from the outside, lock the inmates inside. They could do whatever they wanted to.
Yeah.
Rapes, murder, strong arming, whatever that mean. They didn't care. And the inmates were the ones who were suffering through this, right? Mm-hmm. Especially the weak.
Yeah. And keep in mind, these guards were not, they had no weapons of any type.
When I worked, we had a pager. If sugar during the shift, you were going downhill, you hit your button, then everybody that had a radio, which would be your higher ranking lieutenants and up, the call would go out to what we call the White House, and then the dispatcher would get on and say, everybody respond to Rec Room A at beeper activated. That means shit was going down. 71, 72, they didn't have that.
They had a phone.
They had a hard line phone on the desk in the dormitory.
Yeah.
And
wrap your mind around that, people.
Yeah.
And you're one guard.
And you're one guard. And amongst hundreds of inmates. Now, let's go back and break it down a little bit. Y'all, we're talking about the main prison in this story. And the main prison has numerous sets of dormitories Each set is named after a tree. Like the one we're going to be talking about today is pine. Now they had pine 1, pine 2, 3, and 4. 4 dormitories, probably over 100 inmates in each dormitory, and 1 guard, maybe 2 guards if you're lucky.
Yeah.
For that, all that.
Yeah.
With no fucking communication, no weapons, no nothing. What if this shit happens and you can't get to the phone?
Right.
And then when you get to the phone, who the fuck's coming?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a tough situation to be in. It was a hard time in Angola, but someone like Brent Miller, this is just another day at the office, right? Daddy and granddaddy, they did it.
You grow up with it for so long that it just becomes a norm, right?
Yes.
So let's go back to April of 1972.
Well, we talked about him bucking up.
All right. So, okay, let's talk. Tell them a couple of days before. Let's start at that. It's even the guards knew it. That shit was scaling up, if you will, slowly. And over a couple of days, some things happened.
That's right. First of all, one of the instances that's interesting that the guards noticed pretty quick was bucking up can be anything from a guard telling you, move along, and you turning around and saying, who you talking to, or something like that. That's probably the slightest form of bucking up. But there's other forms. One of them that is documented and that even Woody's mom spoke of was spitting on the guard tower. Right. Something they did. They would walk past and they would spit on it. Now this is intentional, right? And it's almost a form of something's about to pop off around here.
Right. And even on the street today, if you're street interviewing somebody and they spit on the ground in front of you, a lot of the cops don't even know that, but that's their sign of disrespect. So what you're saying was happening in the days leading up, these tensions are building and slowly they start to act out to convicts. And so walking by guards and spitting on them.
Yeah.
And I mean, holy shit, you can get an ass whipping, you're going in the hole, but
yeah, maybe
the hole wasn't such a bad fucking place to be when things really popped off.
That's right, especially at those times.
And the Sunday before the Monday we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a firebomb.
That's right.
And one of the towers actually got firebombed. Now you're probably saying, "How is that possible?" How did they do that? And you'd be amazed what you can get in prison. And matches weren't hard; they smoked back then.
That's right.
In the prison,
and smoking was the form of commerce. Cigarettes.
It was money. Yeah.
But on that day. What was the date?
That would be April 16th.
On April 16th, some inmates, however the hell they got it, I don't know, threw a Molotov cocktail in the guard tower and actually slightly wounded one of the guards. Now, that's bucking up, right?
That's bucking up, yeah.
They'll make it from any type of fruit and sugar or whatever, and they'll rot it down. It's called Pruno. And the shit stinks so bad. But the deal is when they're making it,
it'll tear you up.
Yeah. You drink it. You think Mad Dog, man, where you go from sober to blacked out. It's the same thing. The thing is that gas that comes off when you make moonshine, when you see them throw out the 4 shots, that shit is so highly flammable. Most people save it to like the barbecue pits and shit with.
Yes.
Right? So that certainly they didn't have access. Well, they might have had access to gasoline. I don't know what it was from, but it probably was some type of homemade juice.
Yeah.
That they lit that bottle and threw it at. Okay, so here's the deal. Fucking dude in the guard tower's got a rifle.
Yeah.
You gonna throw a firebomb at me?
Shoot to kill.
Shit's about to go off.
Yeah.
Right? What's going on? Now, the conditions, granted, they're fucking horrible. They said inmates would go to sleep at night with the phone books taped around their stomachs to stop themselves from being stabbed or somebody came to shank them while they were sleeping. It was bad. Yeah.
And so this was really the only way the prisoners would be able to protest conditions is to buck up. That's all that's the only option they had. If we buck up, they're going to know there's an issue. And so that is a progression, right?
Yes, indeed. You just hit me like a ton of bricks. So when they're bucking up, spitting on the guard when you walk by them, that didn't get any change. You throw a fucking firebomb into the tower, I'm sure some convicts got their ass whipped and went to Red Hat or wherever it was at the time. I don't think Camp J was in existence, but that was bad enough.
Yeah.
But you don't get the response. Who knows what's coming next? But what happens, y'all, when that happens, everybody, all the free people learned about it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
And Brent would have been off.
Yes. Anytime that happens, that's a major event in any prison. Angola, no different. This firebomb occurred, and everybody, all the free people at this point started talking and saying, holy shit, something's going on here. That is going to get worse, because they knew there was a progression to this stuff, and in all likelihood, it wasn't going to end with a firebomb. So what do you have to do now? Well, you have to try to, number one, figure out what's going on and why they're.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
Bucking up and get control of this situation, because you've got 6,000 inmates in this prison.
Right.
And as Woody said earlier, in all intents and purposes, if they want to control the prison, they could have.
Absolutely. If they got united.
Yes.
If they get united enough, it's over.
Right.
So Brent would have been off. That was his long weekend. And newly married, I think 3 months.
Yeah.
It was 2 or 3 months. But they get up that morning, and his wife is nervous. Now, she's raised on Angola. And she told him, she said, baby, you know what happened yesterday with the firebombing? She said, I'm a little scared. And he's like, I'm all right. I'm going to be safe, right? And then she took him to work. She said later on in the interview, she couldn't remember, it was 6 or 6:30. I'm telling you how it used to be for me. It was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
She takes him to work, drops him off at the gate that he had to go through, and she goes home and gets dressed, and she goes to high school. She hadn't even graduated high school yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So on to work he goes, and now, folks, these guards at this point are kind of on a high alert in their heads. Imagine yourself in this situation, and you're surrounded by inmates. You have no weapons, and they've been bucking up for days,
right.
And
progressively.
Yeah, progressively, and you know that it's probably not the end of it, but. You're Brent Miller, and you also have a great rapport with everybody, including the inmates. Right. The inmates liked this guy.
Absolutely correct. And that's what my mom has told me my entire life. So he goes in and reports to work. He goes to Pine 1, where he's assigned dormitory. He and another correctional officer. Now, first thing they do in the morning is they feed them chow. Now, in the main prison, you have the different dormitories I told you about. When they went to chow, it's called chow call, right? And everybody that's going to eat lines up at the door. One of the correctional officers takes you down in the mess hall. And back then, they said, they would go in and they said the guards would stand on the outside and watch and whatever. But they took them to the mess hall. One guard would stay behind. Took them to the mess hall, and holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, they took him to the mess hall, and basically Brent at this time just he had a good rapport, and he wanted to get some coffee and visit with a particular inmate that he was friends with or friendly with.
When they took him to the mess hall for chow that morning, they got to the mess hall and there was another buck up. 16 inmates that worked in the kitchen said, fuck it, we're not serving breakfast. We are bucking up. We are on strike.
Now, that's right. And what does that tell you? That tells you that word has spread throughout the prison that it's time to buck up. Remember, that means protest to these. This is a form of protesting from these prisoners of conditions at Bloody Angola at this time. So it spread through this kitchen, and all 16 of the kitchen employees basically said, we ain't fucking serving breakfast today, and you can't make us do it.
That's exactly right. And now, y'all, you got a real shit show. You've got all these inmates from all these different dorms. And one thing, prison life is kind of monotonous, right? You do everything at certain times every day. You show up with the correctional officers show up and they're like, fuck you, I'm not doing it. And their complaint was they were working 6 days a week, 16-hour days. And they said, we want a change. Well, fuck. Now you got to take all your inmates back, lock them up on the dorm. Then the powers that be respond, deal with these assholes in the kitchen,
address the situation.
Them whatever, address the situation. However they got it done, they got them to cook. And then once they got the line back going, the food line, then they call back to the dormitories and say, bring your inmates up to eat.
Yeah.
And the guard that was working with Brent brought the inmates up to eat.
Yeah.
Brent stayed behind.
And so now you've got to keep in mind he's the only guard. Yeah. He's the only guard amongst 100 inmates. Or right, Woody?
Well, yeah, but most of them have gone to chow.
So
right?
That's right. That's right.
But in the morning times, there was a inmate, Ezekiel Brown, an older black man, and they said he and Brent were friends, and he would stay. He would make coffee in the morning. Coffee, y'all, in prison is a big thing. You might drink 5 or 6 cups a night. Especially, it's big for the inmates. But this Brown,
so he basically he stayed behind, and Hezekiah Brown stayed. And one thing in prison, you don't have to go eat.
Right.
You don't have to, they basically say line up to eat. If you don't line up to eat, you get locked in. Right. Yeah. And, they don't, you just don't get chow that day. So Hezekiah Brown stayed back. Brent Miller was back there, and there were some other.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. John White, WebMD's Chief Medical Officer and host of the Spotlight On series from WebMD's Health Discovered podcast. For this special 2-part episode, you'll hear up close and personal journeys about being diagnosed with a rare type of cancer, multiple myeloma.
I started in myeloma nearly 25 years ago. And at that time, the average expectation of life in someone with myeloma was maybe 1 to 2 years. But even just in this last 10 to 12 years, we have doubled, if not tripled, the average survival of patients. I saw a new patient this week, and we had this conversation that based on what we've done over the last decade, my expectation is that patient's going to live more than 10 years.
Listen to Health Discovered on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino this year.
I was only playing for fun, so winning this was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's #1 social casino experience. It's serious fun. With over 80 casino-style games to choose from, you too could win life-changing amounts of cash. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and give them a whirl. That's ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of a winner.
Gentlemen, I would assume back there as well.
Well, from all accounts, Brent Miller sits down on one of the inmates' bunks and gets his cup of coffee with Ezekiel Brown.
Just talking to him.
And then all of a sudden, 4 inmates run up, surprising Brent, attack him, hold him down, stab him at least 32 times. Some accounts say as high as 39 times with a sharpened lawnmower blade. They stab him to death.
To death. And look, let's put this into perspective real quick. You just killed a guard in the most heinous way possible. A sharpened lawnmower blade. You didn't stab him 10 times. You didn't stab him 20 times. You stabbed him a minimum of 32 times.
And let me tell you this. If you are on the street and you're trying to just handcuff a guy, Brent was a big boy, like Jim said, big, strong country boy.
Athletic.
Yeah, athletic and young.
Yeah.
If you're trying to take an average-sized guy down and he's fighting and you want to get him in handcuffs, it may take 4 or 5 guys if you don't have any freeze or whatever. I can promise you it took all 4 of them to hold Brent down once he realized what was going on. But I think the shock of it, it's just had to be so much for him because everybody liked him. Supposedly, while he was down and being brutally stabbed. Now, this came from my mama, who's always heard this her entire life. And she told you, Jim, today.
This is a guy that had a great rapport with these prisoners. And so as they're stabbing him with a lawnmower blade over and over and over again, 32 times, the last words that came out of his mouth were, "Why are you doing this to me?" Think about that. Think about that. Why are you doing this to me? As they're just pounding him.
Count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. At least that many stabs, y'all.
Minimum. And that's what's coming out of his mouth because, as Woody just said, he had a rapport with these guys and never suspected, never knew what hit him, probably, right off. And so then you're confused.
Yeah.
You know, it's shock.
Being murdered in the most personal, intimate way. And it was never proven, and we're going to tell you all the rest of the story on the next episode, but it was never proven. But I would almost guarantee you, if I'm one of the 4 that are stabbing you to death, each motherfucker that's stabbing with me is going to take a turn. I would bet you that they all took turns. That way you can't rat on each other.
Yeah. And there's so much more to this story. These inmates that were involved in this eventually became known as the Angola 3.
It should have been 4.
should have been, and we'll tell you why in the next episode.
Right. But on this one, and Jim and I talked about this for long and hard, y'all. We've watched every documentary. We've read every book. We really did our homework on this one. And this is a story I've been hearing since I was a little boy. And my mama today cried because it's just like, for her, it was like yesterday. We wanted to tell who Brent Miller was as a human being, what kind of person he was. Because in all these documentaries and stuff, except for maybe one, they don't do that shit.
Yeah.
You know, Brent Miller was a living, loving, breathing human being, a son, a husband, a friend, a former student to my mom.
Yeah. Someone that everybody liked.
A great guy.
Yeah, just a great
An athlete.
guy.
He was a human being, y'all. And then what gets lost in these stories that come after is the fact that Brent Miller is a human being, and Jim and I wanted to put the human face. And I promised my mama, and Jim heard it, that I was going to put the human face, or we were going to put the human face on Brent Miller. One last thing, today, and even in 1990 or 91, when I was there, the firing range is named after Brent Miller.
Yeah. So that tells you the respect that Brent had, even at a young age of 23, throughout Angola, and a generational guard. So he was not only just an amazing human being, but he was someone who grew up in that environment. His family grew up in that environment. He was very beloved by Angola.
Yeah. And left a lasting impact on everyone.
Yeah.
So tune in next week, because holy smokes.
We're just getting started.
It's just a hard story, y'all. It's a hard story. Our hearts go out to this day to anybody that knew him and loved him.
Yeah, 100%. And we hope we do it justice, this incident and this story, and it gets deeper from here. So we look forward to telling you even more facts about this case that we've been able to dig up that you may not be aware of.
Right. And appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah.
If you like it, please. I want to thank y'all. First episode dropped. We went to number 5 in the world.
Blows my mind.
Because of y'all. And actually, we're pre-recording this a little bit, so the second episode we just dropped today, and we don't even know where it's at yet. But thank y'all. Please go anywhere that you please like and comment, subscribe, do all those things on any social media network that you maybe listen to this on. Leave a review. Very important. People cannot find a podcast on Apple Podcasts typically unless they know the exact name, unless you leave a review. It helps with the analytics with Apple Podcasts. So you don't have to get in, if you don't want to take the time to write a paragraph or something, you don't have to. Just hit those 5 stars and underneath put great, one word comment. If you don't like the show, put it, tell us what we can do better. We'll take that. We appreciate all of y'all watching. You can get all these episodes in audio and video format, conglomerate of ways. One is to go to the website, Bloody Angola podcast.com. There you'll find everything you need to listen to it right from that website or watch it. You can go to YouTube, where the difference between our audio episodes and our video episodes on YouTube is that's more of an experience. And what we mean by that is not only do you get to see me and Woody kind of go into these zones as we talk about these cases and get goosebumps and all those sorts of things, but you also get to see pictures. We'll have, for example, on this episode, pictures of Brent Miller up and pictures of the people that were, eventually accused.
will be on future episodes. So
the last episode you dropped today, you had a picture of my dad.
I did.
As a young man.
I did. Boy, he was a handsome one. What do you Everton? I see where you get your looks from.
Y'all, I'm gonna tell you something. I listen to the podcast naturally, but holy shit, I'm totally into the YouTube thing now. I got to say that.
Yeah,
and I don't do it on my other podcasts, and not consistently.
Right, and it's something that we try to do to bring y'all the best absolute content we can. It requires a lot more work on our end, but we don't mind.
Jim does that. Vision Podcast Studio does that, and it's fire. Go watch it.
Yeah, please do.
I had to tell my mom today about it because I wanted her to see the picture of Dad and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna figure it out."
Yeah. So we put a lot of time and care into that, and appreciate you watching it. Even if you're listening to it and you know listen to it, then go check out the YouTube. It's a totally different experience that you'll really like. So thank all of y'all for watching. As Woody said, we're rising up those charts, and we love that because we know it puts attention on what we're talking about, and we feel like it's important.
Validates us. And,
yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, it's like our baby, right? It's like watching your baby graduate cum laude or something.
That's right.
I mean, it is a little vanity or whatever, but I mean, when you beat Katie Couric and all these other people.
Snoop Dogg, we're coming for you.
Snoop Dogg's number one. We're coming for you, baby.
That's it. Dropping it like it's hot.
You beat all these big multi-million-dollar production companies. Holy shit.
Yeah. It's a self-produced podcast, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate it. So, I'm Jim Chapman again.
And I'm Woody Overton. And last thing, our sponsors, we love y'all.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And
couldn't do it without them.
Couldn't do it. Absolutely wouldn't have happened without them. Mm-mm. So y'all, please, our sponsors are going to be throughout the show. Every one of them, we've listened to them, or we've used their products. We're back 1,000%. And thank y'all. You rock.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And you listeners, you rock.
You rock. Yeah, set my socks on fire every week. What do you ever?
Hey, Jim and I were like, y'all, we should have made a video of ourselves the whole weekend long, checking the numbers and people commenting. Oh my God, y'all's comments and all the different things it's just so much love.
Total love.
We love y'all back.
Yeah, we do. We do. Love you much. And, so that's it. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And we'll see you next time with another episode of Bloody
Angola,
a podcast 142 years
in the making.
Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at lifemd.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications through LifeMD? LifeMD is now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already. It changed my life.
I wasn't expecting it to shut off the food noise. This was life-altering, and if I can do it, I feel like anybody can do it.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.